Today, I'm organizing my garbage collection. Yes, I have a garbage collection. My name is Savannah, I'm an artist, and I have a garbage collection because I use that as building material for the animated objects and kinetic sculptures that are part of the show I'm creating called Wastelands. Wastelands is a show about the plastic waste crisis, and it takes place on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch in an immersive and interactive installation built entirely out of single-use plastics. The reason I need to organize all of these plastics is because I have collected enough to go into another build cycle. And the studio space that I'm in here is really lovely, it's great, but it's a little bit small. And it is multifunctional. So I want to get this garbage collection organized so it's really easy to find specific pieces or different shapes or different textures during this next build process. And then in general, it's just going to go a lot smoother if things are more organized in this busy little space of mine. But affordable organization and storage solutions are usually built out of plastic. So I want to see if I can take a different approach. And along the way, I would love to share some things that I've learned about plastics over the past few years of researching and developing the show and researching plastics as an artist. I'm still not an expert on plastics or the plastic waste crisis. It's a very complex problem. There's a lot of facets to it. And the other thing that you'll learn once you start deep diving into waste management is that it is extremely regional. So I encourage you to continue researching waste management and the plastic waste crisis beyond just this video, particularly what that looks like in your local context. And you won't regret it because I promise you, trash is really interesting. Affordable storage and organization solutions are usually built out of plastic because plastic is cheap and light. Plastic was once touted as the building material of the future and was a marvel of industrial chemistry and manufacturing. While it can be more durable, lighter, and cheaper than many organic building materials, it still does degrade over time, just like everything else. When plastic degrades, it grows brittle and cracks. Older plastics and cheaper plastics will also discolor. When this physical failure starts, we will throw out our old plastic goods into the garbage, and from there they will eventually make their way over to a landfill. Once in a landfill, these plastics will break into smaller and smaller pieces. But interestingly, they never do decompose. They just keep breaking smaller and smaller and smaller. And these tiny pieces of plastics are called microplastics. Science is still trying to understand the full scope and scale of microplastics in the environment, but here's some of what we do know. Larger microplastics have been found in the food chain, in animal stomachs, causing intestinal blockages, and this has led to malnutrition, starvation, and even death. Microscopic microplastics leach chemicals that affect hormones and toxicity levels, and these in turn have affected birth rates, developmental delays, cancer, and other detrimental effects in animal populations. Industry has labeled plastics by number, and if you don't throw your old plastic goods into the garbage, you might try to sort them for recycling. Unfortunately, recycling is a myth. Recycling hasn't been financially or logistically feasible for quite some time now. Recycling used to work, kind of. China used to have a large waste management workforce and robust waste processing facilities back when their economy was centrally planned. Their waste management system was so well infrastructured that they accepted imports of other countries' waste to process on top of their own. But as contemporary China underwent economic reforms, and industry was increasingly decentralized and deregulated, their waste management system fell apart. And with it, the global recycling system. For years, other countries had relied on China to process our waste. And once China was no longer capable or interested in doing that, we had nowhere for our garbage to go. Now our waste ends up in ever increasingly larger and larger landfills in other countries where land is cheap and their waste management system is either non-existent or highly deregulated. This means there's little oversight to how our waste is processed and whether there is any protections at all for the communities around these waste centers. Our waste breaks down and decomposes, leaching chemicals into other countries' soil and other countries' water tables. The problem is there is no other countries' soil and there is no other countries' water table. There is only soil and there is only water tables. Pollution recognizes no borders. The waste management systems of recycling's heyday will never be recreated. The contemporary labor costs of collecting, sorting, and processing recyclables is prohibitive. What we need is a new material of the future, a material for this future, a sustainable future, one that works in circular economies. This means that industrial waste and end-of-product waste are considered part of the manufacturing process. And these problems are solved before the product goes to market. Because if you make the mess, you should be the one cleaning it up.
Ha ha.